Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session
with your host, Michael Rearden.
Do you remember the last time you looked at the idea of what you have accomplished in your life? Sometimes as we progress, we forget all of the things we have achieved. I know it might not be a big deal, but let's start back when we were in kindergarten. A huge deal. Now, the school system does something very tricky there. They do a big graduation. And they're like, oh, you graduated from kindergarten. You're getting all this love and admiration. And then you get maybe 5 to 6 more years, depending on your school or your district. And then you graduate from elementary. Then you go into middle school. And middle school is very quick, 3 years or 2 years in some districts, and you're out. Now, all of a sudden, you're faced with, okay, now I either have to go to high school, get a GED, start working. Most people go to high school. We graduate after 4 grueling years because it seems like high school, there's so much going on because you're not just looking at those 4 years, you're looking at the rest of your life too. When you are in high school, you're thinking about all of the things that you would like to do in your life because you're thinking about college also. Now, typically the college factor comes in when you're a junior, maybe a senior, right? It's interesting because if you're not thinking about it early enough, you are going to be in a mad rush or mad dash to say, hey, what do I want to do with my life? And for the people who kind of just like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, and they do something, they might go down the wrong path. But yet we can't belittle our achievements because we graduated from kindergarten, from elementary, from middle school, and from high school. And now we're looking for more achievements. And then we maybe get that degree. Maybe we say, I don't want a piece of paper. Maybe I want a different type of achievement. I want to start a business. I want to have a family. I want to be this world-renowned player or whatever. You choose your path, but achievement is always the goal. However, sometimes we get so entrapped in the goal, in the finished product, that we forget the journey, that we forget what it takes in order to get there. Because if we want to climb a mountain, it's not just one step. Typically, it's many steps. It's many hurdles, it's many minutes, it's many hours even. You have to want it if you truly want it. Because most people who will go hiking or they will go do something that's difficult, a goal that's scary, a dream that might be hard to attain, they're going to say, I tried and I failed, or I tried and I gave up. Most people give up at the inception of greatness. So if you can give yourself this idea of achievement, you're going to be a bit closer to making sure that every single time you push for more in your life, you get it. But it's not something you do by yourself. It is something that we have to bring some awareness to. And sure enough, we have a blog, The Ability for Achievement, a journey through motivation, needs, and skills. And basically, we're talking about how achievement is the cornerstone for you to make sure you are doing everything you need to do. Now, I talk about some scientific things in the blog and everything, and I'm not going to get too far into it today, but just to basically give you the premise of it is there's a framework for what a human needs. We want to be safe, right? We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure. We typically want to be loved and appreciated. But then there's even a more basic need, right? We want to be fed. We want to sleep. We want to have sex. That's like the 5th one. We want to make sure we are clothed, right? We have shelter. Once those basic needs are done, and to be honest, most people's basic needs are already done, we can look at the bigger needs, maybe the desires. Because if you could, would you, right? Because many people say, I should do this. I should go to college. I have to do this. And they're basically given themselves a definitive thing of what they have to do. Now, it can be a good thing, very similar to how we talked about positive and negative. Negatives can be a good thing if used and utilized correctly. Positives can be a great thing, but then positives have a downfall too. Because if you're positive all the time and you have no action, for example, you think about positive things. Let's say you have an achievement for being a top podcast host, right? So you want to be a top podcast host. Maybe you want to be a top coach. Maybe you want to be the biggest company that sells XYZ, right? Well, if you just stay positive, right, you're going to get it. No, it doesn't work that way. You can be positive, right? We want that growth mindset aspect because it helps our subconscious mind. But we have to make sure that we are giving that positivity some motivation, some action, the steps needed to get to the goal versus, well, if I just keep thinking about it, then I'll will it into the universe. It's very similar to affirmation. Now, the thing about affirmations is that they can be very powerful. But the problem with affirmations is that many people have what an affirmation is wrong. People think if I recite a mantra over and over and over, it will come true. That's not true. If you recite a mantra over and over and over again, an affirmation, your subconscious mind believes it is true because your subconscious mind doesn't know if what you're telling it is true or if it is false. Because if you joke and you say, oh, I'm so stupid. If you joke and say, oh, I'm ugly, your subconscious mind is going to say you're stupid and ugly. But if you tell your subconscious mind that you are beautiful, that you are powerful, that you are capable, guess what? Your subconscious mind is going to start to believe that is true. Now you need to give yourself the action. We break the pieces apart. We break what needs to be done down. If you can't break it down, that's when you get a coach. A coach breaks it down for you. And you have to be accountable. You have to create the disciplines. You have to build the habits. If people can't do that, then that is where they get stuck. They're trying to achieve great things. They have tried to do something, but it always seems to be a hurdle. There always seems to be a roadblock. And the roadblock is typically yourself. You are going to self-sabotage your achievements and your goals more than anyone else in the world. Because if you think about it, maybe your friends or your family or whoever is in your life, you know how easy it is to get rid of them? It is as easy as deleting their phone number off their phone, blocking them on social media, moving away to a different state or something and not telling them your address. And I mean, that last one might be a little bit too much, but if you tell a person, once, hey, it's just not working, right? And you don't even have to, literally tell them like, hey, I'm not thinking this is working, right? People can tell. Now, if you're in a relationship where someone is like a clinger and it's like, I love you, babe, and they don't get the hint, you may have to break the news to them, right? But most of the time, it's something that people will recognize very quickly. If you are trying to get out of a bad situation, first step is getting up. The first step is starting, saying, hey, you know what? I don't like my current circumstance. Let me begin to change it. And so that's what this blog is here for. This blog is here for you to understand that you do have the ability for achievement. Going back to the kindergarten thing, the one reason they tell you to, you graduate from kindergarten not only is to say, hey, we want to keep you in school so you can get the feeling of graduation later on also, but more so of look at what you have accomplished, the ability for achievement. If instilled early enough, you can do anything. One of the reasons why I'm an advocate for children's rights and their educational prowess is because at a very young age, they're susceptible to parents, to peers, to even teachers, to look at this ability to achievement and have it turned around to the negative, the ability to fail. I don't want them to think about failure as something that, oh my goodness, I'm not adequate. I didn't graduate. I didn't progress to the next grade. I didn't win. Now, I'm not saying that we need to start giving participation trophies and stuff like that because that's negative. We want them to understand that there are going to be winners and losers in life. And if you are a loser, you have the ability. You have the ability to achieve. You have the ability to win. If you are going to give participation trophies, the ability to achieve, yeah, sure, it's automatic now. Why would I even assert myself in life? Because what we do when we lay the foundation for our youth and for the the new generation that's coming up, we need to make sure that they're built solid. I don't think anyone wants to build their house on, some rocky soil or some sandy soil that's going to be shifting as soon as you put your home on it. No, people want a sturdy foundation. They want their home to last 30, 50, maybe 100 years. They don't want a home that's just going to start breaking apart the moment they move in. They want something good in their life. We have to give ourselves this idea because we all have the ability for that. So the way we do it is we instill this idea that you can do anything you want, that you can achieve, that you can win. If you lose, you can win. If you fall, you can get back up. If you stumble, you can correct yourself. If things are wrong, you can make them right. I understand there's going to be times when the odds are against you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't win. It doesn't mean that you didn't achieve. One of the questions I ask myself, and I know this is kind of off kilter to the ability to achievement, but it is a very good point if you can understand the metaphor and the analogy behind it. Where if, one of the questions I struggle with is, children growing up, they're very young, right? Babies, right? They need care. They need love. I have kids. I think about all of the aspects of what it entails to make sure the child stays alive. And I look at how dangerous I was and what I did in jumping off things, and I'm surprised I didn't have any broken bones growing up. But my kid is jumping off sofas and slides and everything. And I'm like, well, it's pretty dangerous, right? But it's dangerous to me. It's dangerous because I want to protect him. So I have to make sure I don't limit him. So I let him jump because I jumped. My mom and my dad let me jump. It's not that they were, watching me like a hawk or anything, but it was a freer time. So now we have children growing up in this restrictive environment. Parents love them. It's a great thing. But then the aspect to that child, what is their meaning? What are they trying to create? In life, we don't know what we're going to get. Tomorrow's not promised. Some children, they make it all the way to adulthood and some don't. There's so many tragic stories of a child not making it because of an illness, because of improper care from a parent or guardian figure, neglect, whatever it be, right? I think about, what is the meaning to their life? Because maybe it is to make their parents happy and smile and to make their grandparents happy and buy all the stuff for them. I think it's more than that. I think it's something for us to understand that they have the ability to achieve and we can see them dare greatly. And it can be a reminder for us to dare greatly, to remind us that life is fleeting. It moves so quick. There is a story. The story I want to say was it was around Christmas time, where there was a guy who was Santa Claus and he dresses as Santa Claus because he looks like Santa Claus, like the typical Santa Claus. So he went to hospital because it was a child's wish to see Santa Claus before he died because he was very sick. He had cancer.
What's this I hear you're going to be missing Christmas this year? Yeah, you tell me I'm dying. Really? Well, you're not going to miss Christmas. Y'all's already had your present already made. We knew you wanted this for a long period, for a long time. When you get up those pearly gates, you just tell them you're Santa's number one elf. You're like, I am? You sure are. They'll let you in I'm sure they'll let you right in. He goes, they will? I said, I know it. So he just came up and gave me a big hug. I had on him, and he just kind of looked up at me and he says, Santa, can you help me? And that's when he passed.
The meaning behind the story that I want to relay to you is this. That boy had dreams. We have dreams. Some people don't get to accomplish your dreams, but we all have the ability to accomplish those dreams. Some people, time is ticking. Time is always ticking. Tomorrow is not promised. We know that, but yet we wait. We have the ability to do more in our days, to do more in our life. How many people live a life that's unfulfilled? This is what this blog is for. The ability to remind you that you can achieve, the reminder that greatness is an option. For the people who think that, it's not for me, think again. It was always for you. Some people achieve different things, and you might start to reflect and say that their achievements are greater than my achievements, but it's the same thing as success. It's the same thing as happiness. It is your definition. Because success for me might be different than you. I might want to live in a cabin with a dog by myself. Maybe I just want to have a family and live in a 2-bed, 2-bath house. Maybe you want to live in a mansion. Maybe you want some grandiose life with all these sport cars and exotic trips, and that might be your life. That might be success for you. It's fine. Success can be whatever you want it to be. The same thing with happiness. Happiness can be just, me being around my family, me being able to take my kids to their sports games, into their karate matches, into travel around the country in an RV. It might be that simple. Maybe the last one's a little bit grandiose, right? Because gas is expensive and stuff. But still, the idea that my goals might be different than yours. And so if you look at my achievements and I look at someone else's achievements, I'm not going to allow their achievements to overshadow or foreshadow my stuff, to foreshadow what I would like to do. Because I understand what I have is what I have. What I will do, what I will do. And what is for me is for me. And everything can be for you. The opportunities, the moments, life. It is yours for the taking. We all have the ability for that. But yet sometimes we forget. Sometimes we just fall into our circumstance. We fall into the mundane life. And we say, this is it. No, it's not. There's so much more. And in this article right here, I'm talking about what can happen. Because we can reach milestones in life. As I said, the different types of graduation, maybe climbing the corporate ladder. But we forget the aspect for the transformation that happens for all of that to happen. We're young. You might think about driving a car, for example. I know when I was a teen, when I was 15, I wanted to get right into a car. I'm like, give me my permit. I think on my birthday, I went and I got my permit. And then I drove for, the whole year. I drove with my grandma all the time. I was like her chauffeur for a whole year. And I got really good at driving, right? Because I did it so much. Now, of course, before I was 15, I drove like it was probably 14 or something. I didn't know how to drive. I crashed my grandma's car, not the one that was teaching me how to drive, but nonetheless, right? It was just a little dent, but every time the door opened, it squeaked. So it was always a reminder. It's like, hey, I'm learning. I'm not, I'm not perfect yet, and I don't think I ever will be, but it's fine. And I remember, telling my grandma, I crashed, and it was a little bit embarrassing. And she wasn't upset with me, the car didn't have any serious damage. It was just more, cosmetic, a little scratch on the bumper, and then the door had a little sound to it. She didn't yell. She was like, "It's fine. It's no biggie." So when things happen in my life and my kids do something and they break something, I go, "It's fine," because I know something. I can replace whatever my kid breaks. I don't care what it is. If it's a one of a kind memorabilia thing, whatever, I don't even need it. I know that. If it's a car, I can get a new one. If it's a house, I'll build a new one. If it's a phone, I'll get a new one. It doesn't matter, right? People are so tied up on material things. I understand if I yell at my kid, that hurts him more than maybe him hurting me with the materialistic thing. Like, it doesn't matter. I heard a saying, and the saying was this: when you yell at your kid doesn't stop loving you. They stop loving themselves. if you don't love yourselves, ask yourself a serious question. Do you think you would dare to do great things in your life? Would you dare to achieve? The answer is no. We could look at the research. We could look at the studies. We can look at your life. When someone yells and screams at you, you recoil, typically, right? Of course, there's going to be those outliers, maybe the 10, 15% of people. But I'm talking about the majority here. I'm talking about the people who are going to get bad news, who are going to get knocked down, and they don't get back up. Too many people. We could look at therapists. Oh, they're raking it in right now. 50% of Americans are struggling with mental illness. And you might ask, well, how is all of this related to achievement? It's because when the mind is bogged down and weighed down and anchored and distracted, it can't see what it can believe. It can't see what it can achieve. And so it's always going to be into that loop now of, okay, what is next? Let me think about what is next. Okay, what is next? Let me think about it. What is next? There's no action. You're literally on ice spinning your wheels. And we're trying to make sure you're making progress. So achievement is about progress, but it's also about focusing on the journey. Because if our goal is to be great in life, well, let's look at how we can be great this minute. Let's look at how we can be great this hour or this day or this week. Let's start there. Let's start small. Because the more we can build up those wins, we are going to get closer to the achievement that we can accomplish. So I encourage everyone to check out this article here, The Ability for Achievement, A Journey Through Motivation, Needs, and Skills. It goes way more in depth than what I talked about today. It's going to give you examples, strategies, things that you can utilize to make sure that you win, that you achieve. And we have to remind ourselves at the end of the day that the journey of life is not going to always be a straight line. I know some people, they just want to win and they just want things to go their way. But we typically are built on our failures. Of course, there's going to be people who win and things are perfect and things are nice. And they might say, you know what? This is nice, right? The focus might be on the nice things. But for the majority of people who see the people who won, they don't see all those nights that they lost, all the days that they lost, all the times that they were working, unsure, uncertain. It's there. You might have to experience it. Maybe you are experiencing it right now. And maybe that can be your propellant to take action. Maybe that can be the spark that initiates everything. Because as you are aware, we can see things and we can see people achieving things. And it's even going to the idea of if you can believe it, you can achieve it. This is from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. And this is what I want to leave you with, because as I said with the subconscious mind, if you keep telling it all of these negative things, all of these things that are untrue, eventually you're going to believe it. Maybe you believe it right now. So begin to work on that. Begin to tell yourself truths. Begin to tell yourself beliefs that are possible, and then achieve.